the second Sicha, or the second excerpt of a Sicha, where the Rebbe speaks about and elaborates on what we spoke about concerning the Tzimtzum, the Tzimtzumim that are there before Seder Ishtalshlus. In the previous Sicha, we explained about how it's very logical, makes sense to say that there are many Tzimtzumim even before the Tzimtzum Rishon. We also spoke about why it is not that often mentioned in Sifrei Chassidus, the Tzimtzum before the Tzimtzum Rishon, because we're trying to emphasize that despite all the details and all the specifics, still in all, there is the Hamshacha of Atzmus and is connected with us. So that was the point that he spoke about in Fabrengen from Shabbos Parshas Yisrei Tavshim Mem Hey, which was following the Fabrengen of the Maimer, what the Rebbe explained about the various Tzimtzumim before the Tzimtzum. Now, the Rebbe had encouraged very much that when he speaks about things by Fabrengen and it awakens questions and so on, that there should be a discussion about it. It shouldn't just be okay, the Rebbe said it, I'm sure he knows best, and that's it. So there was different publications by different Lubavitch yeshivas and so on that used to come out on a weekly basis, for example, and they used to have discussions about many different Torah topics, Chassidus, Nigla, Halacha, but often they also discussed ideas that the Rebbe brought up in previous Fabrengens and so on. So after the Rebbe spoke about this topic and how obvious and how logical it makes sense to have Tzimtzumim before the Tzimtzum Rishon, so there was certain questions that arose and that was under discussion, and the Rebbe addressed it in this present Fabrengen, a Fabrengen that followed that other Fabrengen. And this wasn't the only time. There were other times as well that the Rebbe addressed. This was like, if you will, even an encouragement that the Rebbe gave to people to continue the discussion of what he raised by the Fabrengens, that the Rebbe would often address questions that were raised in these publications called Ha'aris. Okay, enough of the background. Let's learn inside. Aleph, page 6 of the downloads, page Memvav. Duber Beisvada Shalifneza was spoken about in the Fabrengen prior to this. In other words, the Fabrengen of Parshas Yisroi, Tavshim Mem Hey, Oidus HaMevur B'Kabbalah Chassidus, about what's explained in Kabbalah and Chassidus, Sheyeshlam Tzimtzumim Lefnei Tzimtzum Rishon. Even before the Tzimtzum Rishon, there were various Tzimtzumim. We're going to skip over the parentheses. She'inyan Zem Muvan Gam B'Pashtus, that the Rebbe explained in the previous Fabrengen how this is logical and it's understood simply. You don't have to just take it according to, Kabbalah soil. Before there was the light that filled all possible space, there was the luminary. Before the light expanded from the luminary, there's also the light that's part of the luminary. In this idea of the light being part of the luminary, not just that the light is part of the ma'or, which the term ma'or, luminary, is already a specific, detailed description. It describes the idea of yecholos lahoyer, the capability to illuminate, which is lamatam yecholos tam. That is lower than just the level in Hashem's essence known as yecholos. Yecholos is just, we said, Hashem's capability in general, which surpasses just the capability of illuminating or not illuminating. It's capability for anything. Below that, there's the level of ma'ir, the luminary aspect of Hashem's essence, which is the source and the capability to bring forth the specific thing of illumination. So that means it's already more defined than just yichaylos and just Hashem's capability to do anything. So not only is the oir was part of the ma'ir, part of the luminary level of Atzmos, but it's also elegama iskalos bedargis shalamaylam hazeh. The oir is also part of the levels that are beyond Atzmos, beyond the level of ma'ir, adli iskalos ba'atzmos, until the oir is even part of the level of Hashem's very essence. That's how far we say the oir is kol b'moir, the light is included in the luminary, meaning not just the luminary as the description of luminary, but even the light, the way it's part of Hashem's very essence, beyond the description of luminary. Since that is the case, that the light existed and was there in even the source of the luminary, even in Hashem's very essence, how they move and it's understood. So at the first level of light should come out from that level, the way it's still part of the luminary or part of Hashem's essence. So it must be some level of constriction. And we said, from my flesh I will perceive godliness. Like every single person understands, even a non-Jew can understand this idea concerning the soul powers. They're the soul powers, the way they are part of the soul. The soul has potential for many different things that it could do. And there is another level, the way it's already brought down Chassidus, it's already a hamshacha, it's drawn out from the soul, but it's not completely drawn out in a revealed way. It's what's called hamshacha nelemes, it's a hidden drawing down. Until it comes to a revealed way and being enclosed in the limbs and organs in the body. And it's simple and obvious that the way it comes down from the soul is through a constriction. By the way, this idea is also brought down, let's say, for a person, just to give an example, for a person to be able to see, it needs to have that power of sight originally in the essence of the soul. Then it comes out into the hamshacha nelemes, and then it comes out begilui into the limbs and organs of a person. And we know, Chassidus talks about it often, that if an organ, a limb is healthy, so then it will automatically draw out from the soul the power and capability associated with that limb. So if the eye is a healthy eye, it will draw down the power of sight. What happens when we see that a person could have what seems to be a healthy eye, and yet, Chassidus talks about it, they're not seeing? So Chassidus explains that there's missing something in the hamshacha nelemes. In the etzem hanefesh, there's nothing missing. In the essence of the soul, nothing is missing, and that's why it's possible for someone that is a non-sighted individual to give birth to a child that could see, because he's transmitting to him, the father transmits to a son from the essence of the soul, and therefore he transmits for him the capability to see. So why does the parent not see? Because the hamshacha nelemes, for whatever reason, is not functioning correctly. I'm just trying to give definitions of these different levels. But let's get back to the point. Once we've explained logically how the oir, when it comes from the etzem, has to go through a tzimtzum, just like in our own soul, we understand how a soul power coming out from the etzem and nefesh has to go through a tzimtzum. So he says, in this there was a debate, and there was a back and forth, like I said, in one of these booklets, ha'aris, that used to come out by the yeshivas. Since this is self-understood, like we said before, for my flesh I will perceive godliness. If so, what did the teaching of Kabbalah and Chassidus, what did it come up with a new novel approach in the idea of Tzimtzumim? It's obvious. If I have Tzimtzum within me, so there's Tzimtzum by Hashem as well, because for my flesh I'll perceive godliness. So the Rebbe says, even though I explained how obvious it is, that's only once Chassidus explains it. Before Chassidus and Kabbalah lets us know about it, nothing is obvious. The Rebbe says, even this discussion back and forth, that's in these pamphlets that came out, it's a result of the fact that one doesn't take it and look at the content of these matters as we will explain. Explanation on this in the simple sense is everything that we spoke about previously. Initially there has to be the luminary, and afterwards there's the light. First there's the light that's included in the essence, and afterwards there's a light that expands and spreads out from the essence, etc. This is only because of the definitions of the chain order of descent. It's obvious and it's a given that Hashem's very essence is not limited in these definitions. From Hashem's perspective, there could be a light without a luminary. There could be there could be a light that will spread out from the essence without a light that's part of the essence. Hashem can do anything. If not for Hashem choosing by His own will that there should be a chain order of descent and a logical progression, one thing from another, the coming into being of the world or previous worlds could come into being directly without any chain order of descent, without any types of constrictions, and therefore maybe there was no oir within the moir, maybe there was no oir that was kolul, maybe there was no yecholas. Maybe it went directly from Hashem's essence and created the physical world. None of this had to be from Hashem's perspective. And the Rebbe says at the top of the next page, top of page 7, if you ask a simple person, not someone that's a very great intellect, especially not a Mekubal or Chassidus, is Hashem in some way limited, in some type of particular limitation, that your poor intellect, your limited intellect, says that he's limited in? Yad immediately will answer, it's like an insult, you wild person that you are. How does it even arise in your mind, such a question? We're talking about Hashem. And if he is, has much more bravado, he will add and say to the great one that is asking this question, Even according to your great mind, Hashem is not limited. So therefore, if Hashem is unlimited, He could do anything, and the Or can come out from nowhere without being an Or HaKol, and the world can come out of nowhere without having any Seder Ishtalshlus. As he says in the second paragraph, how do we know about the idea of the constriction that took place? Whether it's the first Tzimtzum, meaning that Tzimtzum that Hashem emptied out all possible space from the light that filled it. Whether the constrictions that preceded that Tzimtzum Arishan. And the same thing with Klal Seder Ishtalshlus. How do we know about the general Seder Ishtalshlus? Hashem can do anything. It's not because our intellect forces us to say that there had to be Seder Ishtalshlus, that there had to be Tzimtzum Arishan, that there had to be the Tzimtzum beforehand. The only reason we know for sure about this is because this is the way it was revealed in the teachings of Kabbalah. Yeseidim is even more so. Not only would there have been able to be the coming into being from Hashem's essence without the chain order of descent, but that's the way it actually came about. When it actually comes to the physicality of the yesh, not all the different spiritual levels, but the physicality of the yesh did not exist anywhere before. It's not that there was like a little bit physical and then a little bit more physical and a little bit more physical. Begeres HaKodesh Sivchav, in Begeres HaKodesh Simchav, the very famous Begeres HaKodesh, where Alter Rebbe speaks about how the yesh can only come from Tzimtzum Atzmusi, from Hashem's very essence. Mevayrad Murazokin Sheisavas Yesh Agashmi. Alter Rebbe explains that the coming into being of the physical yesh can only be from Hashem's very essence. It can't come from Atzilus, it can't come from the spiritual world of Asiya, it can't come from any level, only from Hashem's very essence. Why? Because Hashem's essence is from His own very being, or his being, or His existence is from His very being and very essence. Only Hashem's essence did not become as a result of any prior cause, not like every other level on Seder Ishtalshlus. Atzilus came from Keser, Biyah came from Atzilus, Ak came from the Kav came from the Ein Sof Shel Tzimtzum, the Ein Sof Shel Tzimtzum came from Atzmus. The only thing that has no prior cause is Hashem's very essence. Because the only thing that has no prior cause is Hashem's very essence. It's only within His capability, within Atzmus's capability, to create something from total nothingness, without any prior cause to this yesh. In other words, the physical yesh has no physical precedence to it. It wasn't here before, now it's here. We're not talking about the spiritual energy and life force, like for example, Chassidus says that the nefesh of an ox comes from the pnei shorish of Merkava, all the way up. But that's by a lot of Seder Ishtalshlus and Tzimtzumim and Yeridus and the Shviras HaKelim and the Fila and everything. That's only the soul of the ox. The actual physical flesh of the ox came yesh ma'ayin. And everything yesh ma'ayin comes only from Hashem's essence. The Rebbe says this is not just a chiddush of the Alter Rebbe in Igeres HaKodesh Siman Chav, but this is something that the Rambam alludes to as well. He says in the brackets, this idea is also hinted in the words of the Rambam at the beginning of his Sefer, that he right away starts off over there, and he says, all existences from the heavens and the earth and everything between them, only came into being from His true existence. The Ram doesn't just say they came into being from His existence, but from His true, the truth of His existence. which is L'mayla M'Shem Havaya, beyond the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Shalachein Shem Havaya Ein Al Beremez Ubehelem Ba'ifin Shalosh Tevis. That's why when the Rambam begins the whole halacha at the beginning of the Rambam, he says Yisoid HaYisoidis V'Amud HaChochmas Leida, to know that there's the Eibishter that created everything, and everything came from Mitzvah Himotzoi. The Shem Havaya is hinted in Yisoid HaYisoidis V'Amud HaChochmas. So you have Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, but Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is only in Rosh Tevis. Why? Because the level of creation is beyond Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Ad Latzmusi is Baruch Mamish. Still we're talking about from Hashem's very essence, which is Hashem's essence is the Amitas Himotzei. It's the true aspect of his existence. From the truth of his existence came into being all existences in the world, Ad Shilshul Katan Shabiyam, until a small creature in the sea, V'yitush Katan Shayibatabu Oretz, and a small type of creature, also a gnat or something else that could be in the depth of the earth. All of them came from his very essence. So you see that very same idea that Alter Rebbe says, that every physical creation, everything that comes from Hashem's very essence. But we said before that the Oir is responsible for creation. How is that fit? So he says in the next paragraph of Masha Yisavas Bepoil, the idea of Oir, the fact that the actual coming into being of the worlds is through the light. And how does the light do it? Not on its own power, but Shuhu Me'ein HaMoir, because the light is similar to the luminary, and therefore it's able to transmit the energy of the luminary through it, until it's not the direct light, but it's a ray, an array of the ray, like it's explained in the Geras HaKodesh, that actually brings about the creation of the world. In such a way that in the light there's now a whole chain order of descent, one level, another level, another level. And all of this chain order of descent is like the Alter Rebbe explains, and the Friedrich Rebbe brings down the Basiligani, the purpose of this whole Seder Ishtalshalos, this light from the light and so on, is not for the higher worlds, because for the higher worlds there's a descent from the light of his face. So therefore they didn't gain anything by coming into being. They would have been better off before. The goal is this low world, that this low world was not in existence until, because the physicality of this world, like we said before, came about now. So why do we say that the Yisavas is through the light if we're saying that really everything is coming from Atzmus? So the Rebbe says it depends what aspect of the creation is coming from Hashem's essence. The level of the Oir that's bringing about and going through Seder Ishtalshalos and brings about the creation, that is the form or the spirituality of the creations. So it should be able to be a revelation, and specifically a revelation of godliness in the physical yesh. For example, the chayis, the vitality, the soul of the different things. Therefore, the power of Hashem's essence that brings the yesh into being by the Amtzois HaOir comes through the intermediary of the light, and the light itself also needs to go through things. Vaydeis lapshus bekelim, chulor has to be enclosed in the vessels, etc. And in order of a chain order to descend, madrega from one level to another level. But that's all in the tzura component, in the spirituality of the physical. Like we said, the soul of the ox comes from, let's say, Pnei Shorshab Merkava. But when we're talking about the coming to being into the tangible physical yesh itself, top of the next page, Hima'atzmus aloi kol seder ishtalshlus. It's from Hashem's essence, without any chain order of descent. Like to explain that length. That the created yesh is the true yesh. If so, also the way the light came into being also could have been in such a type of way. It will come in directly from Hashem's essence like the yesh. So if Hashem would have chosen to make the light just like he made the physical yesh, so then there would be no need for tzimtzumim. Let's learn another 2 paragraphs. And moving with Pashtus, it's therefore understood simply, then there wouldn't have been all these tzimtzumim that we said. It's so logical and makes so much sense. Why do we explain that there's all the tzimtzumim? Because the way that the light came into being is that initially it was in the Moir, and then it came out to revelation, and every Amshach is through a tzimtzum. If it would have come into being directly from Hashem's essence, like the yesh, the way the light would have come into being would have been in the way of something for nothing, like the physical yesh. It would have come something new into being that wasn't initially there, like the yesh. It's obvious that then there would not be any type of constriction. According to this, understood that what it says in Kabbalah and Chassidus, that there's many tzimtzumim constrictions in the oir, there's no, this is a davar chidush, and it's not obvious like they asked in those discussions in the booklets that the Rebbe is referring to.